What's up guys, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Morgan. I make videos talking about my career change to UX design, how you can change your career to UX design as well, and the pain of existence. So if that kind of content interests you, make sure to hit subscribe. If you're new here, which you most likely are because a substantial amount of you are not subscribed to this channel. If you're looking to become a UX designer, I recommend you do subscribe. The job hunting process and career transition process can be really tough, and there's a lot of people out there who will tell you otherwise, and they'll talk about how they were able to change careers in 2 weeks, and that is not this channel. We talk about the reality of things here. I'm going to just quickly introduce myself. I'll have timestamps below so you can skip over this if you are one of my beloved subscribers. But I have a background in marketing. In 2020, I decided I want to move into UX design. I did a boot camp starting in November of 2020. I did Career Foundry, 5% off code in the description. And a year later, I got a job as a UX designer. So that's a very quick summary, but it did take me about 6 months after graduating my boot camp to land a position that I really love. I was picky in my job search, but I was also doing this during the pandemic where there were a lot more UX design jobs out there that were remote. I know that times have changed in the past 2 years since I've job hunted, and there's a lot fewer remote junior UX designer positions. A lot of positions are in major cities and not everybody has access to that. So I understand this process can be really, really frustrating. I'm here to tell you that you will make it through, and I'm going to try and offer you some what I would consider helpful tips. I have said a lot of this stuff in the past in my previous videos, but I'm going to reiterate a lot of it because hopefully new people will see this video and it will help you along in your journey. So my number one tip that I say in pretty much every single video, and I say every time someone asks me a question about UX, you need to do solo projects. If you're doing a UX design bootcamp, your portfolio is probably not going to be that great. If I'll link my Behance below if you want to see what my first project was like. Doing one big project is not going to be enough to get you a job, more than likely, if you have no previous design experience. So you need to do something to set yourself apart, but also to improve yourself as a designer. I don't think you're going to be able to answer interview questions based on one project that was from a boot camp or a school or whatever type of course that you're doing or whatever form of learning. So you really need to do either self-directed projects. That's what I did. I put money into a project, treated it basically as if it was going to be launched, it was going to be handed off to developers, and tried my best to really get that real life experience. Other things you can do is reach out to local businesses, offer to do work for free. People will usually throw you a couple $100. You could do your best to freelance that way. If you have a friend who has an app idea, like I have some friends that own businesses, and I did wireframes for apps that could help their business. I feel like everybody has that friend that has a million business ideas. So even if your work doesn't ship, if they don't use your work at all, if you don't get paid for it, doesn't matter. That's working experience because you are working with a client. Money does not need to exchange for that to happen, but you need to treat it like it's a real project and like you're working with a real client. You can also do things called design jams. They're sort of like hackathons, but for designers, and you generally work in a team or with another person. That's another thing that I did. But this is going to be really important experience for you as you're answering questions in interviews. The difference between my first interviews after graduating versus after I got some hands-on experience by doing my own solo projects, like it's night and day, obviously, because I was actually able to get a job. So that is my number one tip, and that is the most important tip. My next tip is to not over-design your portfolio. This is a huge problem that I had, and it's a huge problem that I know lots of other people have. You think because you're a designer, you need to have this really beautiful portfolio site, and that's just not the case. People care about the case studies, which goes back to my first point. Obviously, a really bad portfolio is, like a really poorly designed portfolio is probably going to be a problem because you are a user experience designer and the hiring managers and recruiters are your clients. So when I did do my portfolio, I focused on just having the important information there. I even had videos that answered common interview questions, and my hiring manager did mention that after I got hired. I asked, why I'm so underqualified. And one, he said that I was empathetic and curious, which is good. So showing a bit of your personality is a good thing. But also he was like, you answered a lot of my questions. It showed that you recognized the hiring manager is your user, and that just showed like basic knowledge of UX. So that's a little tip for you. But make sure to write out all your content either in a notebook or a Google Doc or a Word doc or something that's not designed. Make sure all your content is good. Then you can go on and design something. Like, I really recommend just doing something very simple until you get your first job or something, because it takes so much time to overthink the design of your portfolio. Nowadays, I just use Behance. I just have my case studies up on Behance, and that's what I would link people if I was trying to get a job. A portfolio site is just so stressful, and I feel like I would always end up hating it after a couple of months, and I know that a lot of people feel that way. I also have a coworker who her portfolio is a PDF, so you don't always have to have a portfolio site. You can use more of those free options that you don't have to focus so much on designing. So make sure that the case studies are the most important thing, and then give some information about yourself as a person, an employee, a coworker, a leader, or whatever role you're applying for. Similar next tip, don't overdo the resume. Again, get the content out on paper, don't design it. I've seen a lot of really over-designed resumes, and I did the same thing, and I think it actually negatively impacted me because a lot of companies will use, I think it's called ATS, which is basically just like, I think it's an applicant tracker system, and it will like scan resumes. And if the layout's weird, if it's over-designed, if you've got a bunch of stuff in there that has nothing to do with your experience, then it can sort of mess with that system and could negatively impact you, especially if you're applying to a big company where they're getting thousands of applications every day. So make sure that your resume is actually scannable, not just by a computer, but by a person, because people don't really extensively look at resumes right away. Don't overfluff it. I made the mistake of doing a bunch of courses and getting all these certifications on my resume. No one cares about that. Just if you did a boot camp, put the certification there, like just do that. Another thing is like when people do the skill levels, I'll put like an image of what I mean over here. It doesn't actually add value. Same thing with showing like the tools that you use. It's like, okay, we all kind of use all the same design tools. I'm not saying not to put that on your resume, but you don't have to jam pack your resume. I would focus on your experience, try and tailor the description of those work experiences to be relevant to the role, even if it's just soft skills like communication, empathy, communicating with clients, that type of stuff. I also put design projects on my resume because I didn't have any design experience. So I had, for working experience, my most recent was being a freelance designer. And then above that, I had my design projects and basically went over the small businesses that I worked with and how my work was intended to impact that business. Tip number 4 is to put yourself out there. So there's a few ways that you should do this. One, you should put yourself out there on networks like LinkedIn to let people know, like, hey, I'm looking for a job. This is the work that I'm working on. These are the things I'm accomplishing. These are my ideas. I once designed a very small feature for LinkedIn, like just did a little wireframe or a little mock-up just to show like I would really like to see roles that talk about the amount of experience, because I've seen so many entry-level positions that when you go to the job description it says they want 5 to 7 years of experience, and that's not entry-level to me. So it would be cool if one of the filters was if a company is like, you must absolutely have at least 3 years of experience, then I won't get those roles recommended to me. I did a mock-up of that, and then I actually had a recruiter reach out to me and say, we're going to be hiring UX designers in a few months, and I would like to consider you based on this post. And that was great. That was a huge ego boost to me, but that was towards the end of my job search, and before they started hiring for UX designers, I started my job. So worked out. But you should also reach out to designers, join groups in Slack. There's a bunch of design communities online on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm sure there are Discord channels. You can connect with each other in the comments if you want to do that. That would be wonderful. Having people that you can go to get feedback from, going on those mentor sites. Feedback is really, really important, not just for having a successful portfolio, a successful resume, successful case studies, but being able to listen to and apply feedback is an essential skill. Designers who don't accept feedback, like, they do not do well. People don't like working with you. People don't expect you to put out good quality work because you're not listening to anybody. So reaching out to people, getting feedback, it's not only beneficial to you as an aspiring UX designer, but you will build skills from reaching out to people and getting that feedback. Lastly, this is actually really important, and it might sound kind of dumb, but it really impacted me. Getting to know yourself. I was so desperate after I graduated from my boot camp. It was really bad. My interview skills were terrible because I was just trying to memorize answers and tell people what they wanted to hear, and that did not work out for me. The job offers that I did get were jobs that I absolutely did not want because the companies were low-key red flags. After a little bit of time, maybe 2-3 months, I took a step back and I decided to start working on those solo projects by myself. And there's one solo project that I believe got me my job. And that solo project really made me get to know myself as a designer, as an employee, as a teammate, as a person a little bit. And it was really, really valuable. So I also learned what was important to me in a company and in an industry. So as I was working on this solo project, it was for a tax documenting app. I realized I was drawn to the financial services industry. I love personal finances. And every time I saw a job posting on LinkedIn for any type of financial services company, like, I would want that job. Like, that's immediately what I was drawn to. And so that's what I started to really focus on. And now I work for one of the largest financial services companies in the world. And I think the fact that I went through that project, I was able to start answering questions much more honestly. Like, I would often get the question, what's your design process? And I would try and memorize the design process that I was taught in my boot camp. That's not what people want to hear. They know what the textbook design process is. There's more than one, but like, they know what that is, and that's not really what they're asking. They're not quizzing you. They're trying to get to know you. So after I started doing this solo project and someone asked me, what's your design process? I was like, changes every time, because it really depends on what the project needs. You know, you go through finding the problem or opportunity, and then you do market research, find out that thing already exists. So you try to, and you go, like, the process is not linear. And that's essentially what I was communicating at the time. That struck up so much conversation because they're like, that is so true, because they know what it feels like. All of these things kind of connect. It's really about getting to know yourself as a designer. That will help with your portfolio, that will help with your resume, that will help when you're reaching out for feedback. You'll feel more confident in yourself. Even if people are like ripping your portfolio apart, you're like, okay, yeah, like, what you said makes sense. I'm going to make those changes. And you stop taking things personally because you start really caring about the outcomes. I hope all of this made sense. I hope that you guys found this at least a little bit helpful. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I will be here with you along your journey to find a UX design job. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Anything helps. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.